Welcome to the Success Podcast, where every week I will bring you a deep, rich, and clear understanding of why you are where you are now and how to bridge the gap to where you want to be. My name is Amila Kay, and the podcast starts now. Welcome to podcast number 6. If you haven't already, click subscribe now so you never miss another episode. Okay, and today I have chosen to speak to you about typical life problems and how we can approach them in a sustainable and resourceful way. I think this matters because I was thinking about I've got a few topics of what I can use for my podcasts, and I thought I wanted to put everything I had previously brainstormed, just park it off to the side for a bit, and I wanted to think about what is it that most of us, everyday human beings, are struggling with. What are our problems? What are our challenges? And I wanted to address these things. And these may be things that you're struggling with right now. They may be things that you've struggled with in the past. And they might even be things that you might have to overcome in the future. And so I really wanted to look at the typical life problems that we have and address those in different ways that we can look at those issues and those challenges and how we can overcome them in a way that enables us to grow and be stronger and wiser and better equipped to deal with the challenges of life. I'm going to delve into all of this with you now. I would like to state first that I got really inspired by an article written. His name is Tim Denning. He's a writer. He is a writer in self-development and other things. I've only just recently discovered him, so I don't know too much about him, but his article really, really inspired me. I read it on mission.org. Really inspired me to look at what he had to say and then, of course, add my flavor to it. So, problems, right? As human beings, we all have problems. And in my opinion, I think a lot of our problems are much the same. How we perceive them and how we deal with them and how we think about them are very different. But I think ultimately all of our problems are the same. Now, problems are always going to be around. We will never come to a time in our life where we no longer have problems. Problems are a part of life, and we can't run away from them, and we can't wish that they weren't there, because the way I see problems is it's an opportunity for us to grow, an opportunity for us to improve in an area of our thinking. Always thinking. It's always about how can I improve my mindset to deal with these challenges. And so I think that it shouldn't be that we're wishing not to have problems. Rather, it should be to look for ways to improve our mental thinking and to improve our mindset and to improve our knowledge and of course the way that we deal with our problems, because that's what's going to make our life feel more joyful and more successful, and it's going to allow us to feel happier because we know how to deal with the challenges in our life. Now think about if you can it doesn't matter how old you are, but if you were to think back, say 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, or even when you were a child, a problem that you had then which seemed so intense and you didn't think that you would ever overcome this issue. You maybe thought, this is it. This is the biggest problem of my life, and I can't see what's behind this problem. I can't see myself on the other side of this. And maybe you thought that was it. That was the end of you. I know certainly I've had a lot of those moments when I was growing up. However, if I was to think of those problems now, those problems and those challenges that I had as a child or as a teenager, or even 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago, I now look at them and I think, well, of course I could have done A, B, C, and D. And of course there were all these other options. And of course I could have just said no. Or of course I could have just, whatever, left or spoken up or changed what I was doing. I can see that now very clearly because I've grown in my knowledge and my wisdom and my ability to think and my mindset. And I've equipped myself with all of these tools and information and ways of being more empowered that make those challenges look very simple, almost non-problems. They're non-problems now. And if they were to happen in my life right now, I probably wouldn't really even notice them because I know how to deal with those things. So I'm sure that you can also try to imagine yourself in your life, whatever your situation is and your previous problems were. Can you see that you're now able to, if those things were to happen again, that you could very easily overcome them? So what's the difference? The difference is you. The difference is how you developed, how you've grown into the person that can now deal with things like that, whereas you weren't that person before. So the key point that I'm driving here is don't wish that you didn't have problems. Always prepare yourself to be the person or the type of person who can deal with any challenge, who you know where your resources are, the resources that you can tap into, whether it's internal or external to you, that can help you overcome any challenge or obstacle. Because there isn't a single challenge or obstacle that's happened to anyone in the history of humanity that hasn't been overcome. So how can we think that there is a challenge or a problem we can't overcome? And the reason we think that is because we don't have the mindset to think that way. We don't have the mindset to believe that we are capable of overcoming any problem. And so that's what today is all about. I think I've been bitten by a mosquito on my shoulder and it's really itchy. All right. So let's look at some typical life problems now and other ways that we can solve them. One of them can be that you didn't reach a goal that you set for yourself. Now, just because you set a goal, it doesn't mean that you're always going to achieve it, especially not if you give up or you're not consistent or you're not determined enough to achieve it. But even if you were, it doesn't mean that you're always going to achieve your goals. Now, some of the toughest goals in history that we or anyone has ever had took thousands of attempts, thousands. And if we come to a point where we go, okay, well, I didn't reach my goal this year, and then we never try to reach it again, and we never try to take a different approach to overcoming the obstacles or the challenges that we had to achieving that goal, then we didn't really not make it. We gave up. There's a difference in that. There's a difference in not achieving a goal, and there's a difference in giving up on a goal. And I think that's really, really important. Some of the goals that I've missed so many goals. I've met so many of my goals, but I've also missed so many. This doesn't mean that I'm never going to get there. If it's so important for me, like I say it is, I will never, ever, ever, ever give up, no matter what. I think often about Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. I can't remember the number, but I think it's something like 10,000 times or 10,000 attempts or something, some huge number of attempts that he made to create the light bulb that we use all around the world today. He failed thousands of times. And when, he was asked, how many times are you going to keep doing this before, you just stop? And he says, all I've discovered is the ways not to make a light bulb. I haven't yet discovered how to make the light bulb. And he never gave up until he did it. Imagine if he gave up. Imagine if he said, I don't know what it means to create a light bulb and I can't do this. I'm just going to give up. How would we be without light today? People who, what's his name? The guy who sings, Ed Sheeran. I think it was like 6 years or something like that he was homeless or living on couch to couch, or, he left school and he moved to the UK and he was singing and He suffered enormously. It took 6 years for him to break through and create success. What if he'd given up? We wouldn't be able to enjoy all of his amazing music today. The problem is with us as human beings is that we think all the people that have created success did it overnight. What we don't see is the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and years and years and years of days and nights spent pushing through when no one believed in them. When no one believes in you, when everyone says you're not going to make it, when everyone says, when are you going to throw the towel in and just try something else? When you've lost all your money and you've lost all your support, who's hanging around to keep you pushing? And so that is why success is one of the hardest things in the world to achieve. It's because you have to have a vision in your mind that no one else can see, that you can't even actually see in your physical reality. You can only see it in your mind, this vision. And you have to stick to that vision so strongly and for so long. And you have to believe that no matter what happens, I will never, ever, ever, ever give up on what I think is the purpose why I'm here. My purpose. My reason for being here. Because I don't think that our reason for being here is to get born, to go through school, to get a 9-to-5 job, to hate it, and to just live in a box, watching a box, playing on our boxes, sitting in our box cars and going to other places, only to want to come back home and then die. That can't be it. That just can't be it. I truly believe that every single human being that is on this planet has a purpose. And I think our job is to find out what that purpose is. And so in my last podcast, when we did values elicitations, this is why I really wanted to do this. So many of us don't know what we want. What do you really want? What is it that you really care about? What legacy do you want to leave behind when you die? Even for your children. For somebody. How will you leave the world in a better place when you move on? And I know I'm getting really deep here, and I'm doing it intentionally because this is what drives me. It's questions like this. If I was to sit down and have a conversation with somebody where we could talk about things like this, that would be the greatest conversation I've probably ever had in my life. And I'm very blessed to have people like that in my life that I can have conversations like that with. And I'm trusting that you're enjoying this if you're still listening to me. Okay, so I think that for our goals, it's about setting a goal. And we talked about how to do that in the last podcast. So go and listen to it if you missed it, the Values Elicitation podcast. And I will cover this and other things in future podcasts. But set a goal. And then it's, who do you need to become as a human being to fulfill that goal? Because that is the whole point of a goal. It's not just to get there. It's not just to arrive at that point. Because then what's the point? Think of a time that you set a goal and you got there and you're like, is that it? Is this the big fuss I made about this? I don't really feel any different now. I don't really feel that great. And if you did, it would have worn off pretty soon after that. And that is because as human beings, we must progress. We are wired to progress. And when we're not progressing in life, when we're just sitting and we're stale, that's when we start to feel things like depression and boredom and anxiety and hopelessness. Because we need to progress to feel alive. Nature always tells us. Nature tells us this everywhere. You're either green and growing or you're ripe and you're dying. We must be green and growing to feel alive. And so set your goals. And if you don't reach them, then say to yourself, okay, the approach that I used didn't work. What can I change and do differently and try again? And that's how you should see it. What must I change so that I can achieve my goal? Because what I did now didn't work. I know that for a fact that this approach and this strategy doesn't work. Learn from other people who have achieved the goals that you want to achieve. Ask them, what did you do? What strategy did you use? What did you do every single day? You know, my daughter she's learning how to play the piano. She's been learning for a few years on and off, and she gets very bored with new things, and, you know, the excitement dies out and then she doesn't want to do it anymore. Anyway, we're back on piano again. And she was telling me about how there's a boy in her class who plays Beethoven's Midnight Sonata, I think it's called. One of my favorite songs. It moves my soul when I hear it. And so I told her, honey, if you learn how to play this song, I'm going to give you $1,000. And she doesn't believe me. And then she went and told her dad, Mum said that if I learn how to play Midnight Sonata by Beethoven, she'll give me $1,000. And Dad says, I will too. I'll match her. And so here she is, this almost 12-year-old girl who has just been told by both of her parents that she'll get $2,000 if she learns how to play a song. And her main focus is, I don't think that you're going to give me $2,000 if I learn how to play this song. And we said, you have our word, you focus on learning how to play the song. So she comes home and she tells me there's this boy in her class who's a few years younger than her who knows how to play this song really beautifully. And I said to her, oh yeah. I'm like, well, that's really awesome. I said, how did he learn how to play it? And she says to me, well, his dad's a musician, and so he's just learnt from his dad. And I said, okay. I said, but how did he learn? And she says, what do you mean, Mum? And I said, well, he didn't just learn because his dad knows. How did he actually learn? And she said, I don't know. And I said, why didn't you ask him? And she goes, I don't know. And so the lesson here for her was, just because if somebody else can do something that you want to do, that is a goal of yours, you have to ask that person, what did you do to learn that? Because he didn't know how to play Beethoven's piano song through osmosis. This boy must have done something every single day. He must have had a certain mindset, certain beliefs, certain values that have allowed him to learn and be able to play this song so beautifully. And so this is what I want her to grow up with, this kind of mindset. There is nothing that I can't achieve. And if I know somebody who has achieved a goal that I want to achieve, I must ask them, what did you do every day? What do you believe? What do you do every single day? What kind of habits do you have? How long do you play for? What do you do when you play? What happens when you fail? What happens when you feel like you're not progressing? Because these people that have reached the goals that we want to reach will give you the blueprint to success. You just have to apply it to your life. Because success is no mystery. The question is, do you know what you want? Number one. Number two, are you determined to achieve your goal no matter what? Do you know your why? Why do you want to achieve this goal? Why does it matter to you? Why does it really matter to you? What do you think it will give you if you achieve this goal? And then ask yourself, why does that matter? And write down your why. Because when you're failing and you're tired and you're frustrated and you're feeling down on yourself because you're not getting the results that you want, that why that you wrote down is what's going to pull you out of the slumps to keep going. I think that's so important. I think it's so important to raise our kids to have this type of mindset. To know that they can achieve anything they want to achieve, and to know exactly how to do that. What kind of questions they must ask. of themselves and of other people who can help them. I think that's so important. So the solution is, like I said, if you didn't achieve your goal, try a different approach. Don't do the same thing. That's insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping somehow you're going to get a different result. That's insanity. And know that all of the people you look up to, all of your idols and people who inspire you have all failed more times than you can imagine. They've probably failed more times than you because they've tried more times than you. Imagine if they gave up. What would you be missing out on right now? And what would the whole world be missing out on right now if they gave up? And when you set yourself a goal, say, I really want to achieve this goal, but if I don't, which probably I won't, then that's okay with me because I'm never ever going to give up and I'm going to keep trying. Have that mindset. Expect failure, but also expect yourself to never give up. Be resilient and absolutely determined to do whatever it takes to achieve your goals. And I say that, of course, with the assumption that you're not going to hurt anybody when I say no matter what. So another one is someone criticized you. Nobody likes to be criticized, but one thing you have to understand is that if you want to make an impression in this world and you have the courage and the bravery to speak up and do what others are not doing, then the critics are going to come out left, right, and center and from all kind of cornices and holes that you didn't even know existed. Because it is so much easier to critique a person who's trying than it is to actually have the courage to try. So know that the number of critics you have is in direct proportion to your success, as Tim Denning said in his article. Understand that you're not going to be able to please everybody. You're hardly going to be able to please the people in your inner circle. And so know that there are going to be critics everywhere and accept them. And you don't have to listen to what they're saying if it's very negative and hurtful, but not all critics are bad. So always have a mentor in your life, someone you admire, someone who inspires you, someone who has results that you want, and ask them for feedback. Ask them to help you see your blind spots and ways that you can improve. Don't be afraid of criticism. Face it and take on the learnings. Be sure to ask the right people for it. And so other ones are, your career got messed up. I'm just really conscious because my battery looks like it's going to die on my laptop, which I have my microphone plugged into. So what I'll do is I'll wrap this one off with maybe your career didn't work out, so that problem, and then I will continue after I've charged my laptop, and that will be the second part of this podcast. So to wrap it up, your career gets messed up. Now, whether you have your own startup or you've tried to have your own business or you're an entrepreneur or you're an office worker, at some point, something's not going to go right in your career and you're not going to be able to go to the point that you wanted to go to or get the job that you wanted to get or complete the project that you said you were going to complete. Things will mess up. And business and being in any type of business is really your ability to solve problems. And there are things that can happen like a redundancy or your business can go bankrupt. Or maybe the skills that you have are no longer needed in your industry or other industries. Or maybe you've, messed up really bad and made a mistake and now you're going to get fired. Your career is going to get messed up at some point. This happens to everybody. There are things that are going to happen that you can't even predict. The solution to this is see career challenges for what they are. It's just an opportunity now for you to take a different path. It's an opportunity for you not to go in this direction anymore, but rather to turn and go in a different direction. Because maybe there's bigger growth for you in that direction. Maybe there's things that you really need to learn for life that are available in this new direction that are not available in the direction that you're going in. And so as hard as it can be to face this and embrace this, accept that when things change in life, it's for a reason. And sometimes we have no idea what the reason is and we can't make any sense of it. And that's okay. But use that to think, just take a deep breath and let it all out and just say that you trust the universe or God or whatever it is, whatever power you believe in, and just trust that the path you're being taken on is right for you and that it is good for you and that there is something beautiful waiting for you there. Embrace it. Don't hold on so much, because it's the holding on that's hurting you. See this as a chance to grow. A chance for you to do something you've always wanted to do, but you didn't have the guts to do it before because you were so comfortable in the rut that you were in. See the silver lining in every situation. So I will leave it there because I'm very worried about my computer shutting off. If you like today's message and you can think of someone else who will also get something out of it, please share. My vision is to help as many people possible to understand themselves and others better and to have the tools to create the life they desire. I will see you in the next podcast, which will be a continuation of this one here. And as always, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you really soon. Bye for now.